Hello. Who are you? Doesn't matter.
Originally, this video was going to be about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I have stared at this blank page trying to think about how to articulate my thoughts on that game for months. Many months. So very many months. In that time, I've played a lot more games, and my thoughts have evolved, and I have a lot more to say. I have talked both of my wife's ears off about my thoughts on this subject, so I'm using this medium to get my thoughts out there again. Instead of focusing on Hellblade, although it is the inspiration behind these thoughts, I'm going to talk about storytelling and how playing a video game just might be the best way to experience a story. Let me just put a little disclaimer in here as well. Pretty much everything I'll talk about in this video is completely subjective. It is based on my own experiences and what has resonated with me. I'm in no way saying my opinion is the only right one. If you disagree with me, that is good. Convince me otherwise. I'm happy to hear what you think. Disclaimer over, moving on. Stories are everywhere. We as human beings are storytellers. We've been telling stories for our entire existence. We like it so much that there are at least a billion different ways that we tell stories. We've got orators.
And he's just like,
Books, TV shows.
oh. Yes. Yes.
Movies.
Bread makes you fat?
Your own imagination. Recounting from your memory the boring story of how you found $5 that one time. Video games. Live plays in the theater. Podcasts. Pictures with no words at all. Music. Music with no words. Music with lots of words, lyrics with no music. Have I made my point yet? Honestly, every one of those methods has resonated with me in some way. There are probably a lot more methods that I didn't think of while writing this script that have been meaningful to me as well. All of these can be impactful in their own way. A lot of stories are attempted to be told in multiple different mediums, some for better, some for worse.
Are you the Avatar Ong?
Ugh. I have a lot of opinions on this as well, but I'll try to stay on topic. Video games need to be considered among the best ways to experience stories. Some of the most impactful stories I've ever consumed have been through them. When you're able to play as a character, you come to know that character much more intimately than if you're just watching them or reading about them. You get to make decisions with them, see how they react to a ton of different situations, sometimes how they would react to the same situation a bunch of different times. But anyway, what makes a story good? Why do we enjoy some more than others? I submit that a surefire way to make a story good is one where you care about the characters. You're able to connect with them and give a crap what happens to them, even though they aren't necessarily real. The literary hero's journey has been hashed over and over again, but it continues to work. It works as a storyline as long as we can connect with the characters. So how do you get your audience to connect with the characters? Let's have a look at one of the most celebrated stories ever told. There has been more said about the Last of Us series than I will ever know, but this story impacted me more than any other. I honestly don't know how anything else could take this one spot in my book. In this game, you go through this harrowing journey of protecting this young girl as you travel across the United States. If you look at the bare story, it seems a little cliche, right? We have zombies, they are gross. We found this girl and she could be the key to saving the whole world. Get her to Salt Lake City. But if you look at any story at that base level, they all sound boring. Getting to experience all these moments with Joel and Ellie are what make the story so powerful. The cutscenes are moving and important parts of the story. But for me, what really made me bond with these characters was interacting with them through gameplay. Through fight sequences, small bits of dialogue, the decisions you make as the player and how you get through those obstacles, those all made me feel connected to them. For years, I've always said that the only way this story could be so impactful was through a video game. Well, it looks like we're gonna find out. Now, something else to consider in regards to The Last of Us. I mentioned that this story is the most powerful I've ever personally experienced out of any medium. But the first time I played this game was literally a few months after my daughter was born, which means this scene was like a sledgehammer to my gut. And I fully admit that this whole game probably had a larger effect on me because I had just become a father. So I probably have a bit of bias here, but I need to give credit to the developer Naughty Dog's style of storytelling through gameplay. As I played through the prologue as Sarah, I got to see through the environment and little bits of dialogue a piece of her life with her dad, which made me care about them. If the whole beginning had just been a cutscene, which they could have done, I don't think it would have hit me as hard seeing Joel lose her. Okay, I want to talk about The Last of Us 2 as well. I'm sorry. There are a lot of things that have been said about Part 2. It's honestly a scary topic because people get super heated over it. My full thoughts on the game are better stated in Donkey's review and this Girlfriend Reviews video, but I want to talk about connecting with characters in this game as well. When I was first introduced to Abby, I had a similar experience that most had with her. How dare she kill Joel? I bonded with him. He made terrible decisions and made a lot of mistakes, but I felt so bad for him. How could you do this? But then, you literally walk several miles in her shoes. And I sincerely didn't want to at first. I had my mind made up that she was the villain and nothing else. But then you get a glimpse of her life and experiences. And you don't just see them, you play along as her. You make decisions. You grow with her, mostly thanks to Lev. And experiencing it that way, I connected with her. And it was amazing. We live in a world where audiences aren't as satisfied with stories being just good versus evil. There's been a huge uprising of stories where we get to learn why the bad guys are bad. And this was just an incredible way to do that. Man, I hope there's a part 3. Okay, let's talk about Hellblade. I have to bring this game up because of how it tackles mental health. In this game, you play as Senua, who suffers from psychosis.
Another voice joins us. She once tried to make them go away. Pretend they weren't real. But what good is that? When we are always here.
Many theories have been made that the entire story of her fighting her way through Helheim is all in her mind, and it's hard to argue with that. Senua constantly hears voices in her head. At the beginning, they torment her and are terrifying. As she progresses and gets stronger, she accepts that they are a part of her and they become more helpful, warning her of danger and such.
Get up, quick! Get up! It's not over. It's not over. Focus now.
The greatest thing about this theme is how you experience it as the player. The game highly encourages you to play with headphones. Through their awesome binaural audio recording, you hear the voices as if they are in your own head. It is so incredibly spooky, but so cool.
The source of the darkness is in Helheim. And the goddess Hela holds his soul there. Her dear beloved, Dillion.
The developer Ninja Theory has a great video series talking about this game. They interviewed many people who have experiences similar to Senua, and a lot of them talked about that the experience you get in the game is very close to what they go through. This is important because through the medium of a video game, so many more people can now empathize, if just a tiny little bit, what it's like for people who actually suffer from psychosis and hearing voices. You could have tried to show that through a TV show or a movie, and I'm sure that's been done, but getting to make decisions as Senua in a video game, I think it is so much more impactful, because you can actually hear the voices berate you, which can cause you to make some mistakes. That level of empathy I don't think could come from any other medium. Also, did you know that the actress who plays Senua had never acted before this role? I will never get over how amazing that performance was, especially coming from someone who had never done it before. There are a lot of games that have mechanics that enhance a story in such a way that I think can only be done through a game, such as silent protagonists and stories changing based on the decisions you as the player make. How many other mediums can do that? I can't think of any. If you can, tell me, I want to know. When it comes to choices affecting story, I, like many people, will think of BioWare games. Their dialogue trees lead to hundreds of small decisions made throughout long stories. Each of these little decisions have an impact on what happens next and even affect the story in the sequels. It affects how other characters in the story view you as the main character that you play. I love that we live in a day and age that we can do something like this, because we can play through the same game several times but get completely different journeys and different outcomes based on what we decide to do as the player. Now let's look at BioShock. Your character is a silent protagonist, but the game allows you to make the decision of being the good guy, the bad guy, or something in the middle. Based on how you act during the game, the ending changes. And that's so cool. The same kind of thing happens in Red Dead Redemption 2. Your decisions matter. It is Arthur Morgan's story, but you affect it through how you decide Arthur acts. I think that's a great hybrid of inserting your own influence on the story, but it's still being Arthur's story in the end. Man, that's such a good game. Doom is another great example of a silent protagonist. The story doesn't change based on your decisions, but the developers of the game have said that the point of this is to make you feel unstoppable. You, the player, not the Doom guy. You get to feel like the most feared creature in the universe, and that's cool. When you talk to anyone who's played Doom, they don't say things like, and then the Doom guy walks in and kills the demons. They say, I pulled out the super shotgun and I killed the demons because I am the most badass thing that's ever breathed air. I know that it sounds kind of stupid using Doom as an example in a video about stories, but I personally love the lore and story around Doom, and I love the Doom guy character, and he's so freaking cool, and he makes me feel cool, which is fun, so I'm leaving it in there. So I guess all I'm trying to say here is that video games as a medium of storytelling should be respected just as much as other formats, maybe even more so. If you disagree with anything I've said here, I would be happy to hear what that is in the comments. That's all I got, I think. I seriously have been thinking about this topic for about a year now, so finally putting it to rest. And then after I publish this, I'm sure I'll think of something else I wanted to say, and then be super bummed because I didn't include it in the video. Oh well. Thank you for watching.